Friends, rarely do we have the opportunity to speak with a guest who has created an entire original universe of content. My next guest has done just that, creating a fun, enchanting world for all ages to enjoy. Her work on YouTube and creative adventure in Bellossoms is funny, clever, and showcases many talents of my next guest. Please welcome to the show, artist, animator, voice actor, and creator of Bellossoms, Erika Swanson.
Hi, thank you for having me. This is great. That's very nice.
It's so great to have you on the show. I'm a big fan. I remember seeing your booth at C2E2 and just seeing all the things that you've done, both as an artist and an animator, creating this whole entire world of Bellossoms, and your YouTube channel with a lot of very digestible content, quick, easy, it's like a lot that you can just watch in a short amount of time. You can binge watch.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to start with seeing if you might be able to tell us a little bit about your show, how you created the concept, and just how everything became this magical, very flowery, and world kind of being terrorized by vines at the moment.
Yeah. Bellossoms is about little flower adventurers that bloom in new places. And so the concept is very much, kind of pun intended, bloom where you're planted. So in many ways, without giving away like the overall plot of it, at the heart of it, I think it's about just kind of overcoming adversity and friendship and adventure and kind of finding your own way as you go. So that's kind of the rough concept, but that concept is tucked into adorable flower creature people.
And yes, and the adorable flower creature. I think you have 4 main characters. There's Rue, and I'm gonna screw up the names, I'm sure. Cece, Vivi, Rue, and what's the last one that I should know?
Gigi. Gigi's the leader.
Gigi. Yeah. She's kind of the main one.
Yeah.
But yes, it's amazing. So much work. You do everything. You put your heart, soul in the show, from animation to just putting everything together, all the editing, all of the voice acting that goes into the show.
Very loosely. I'm loosely a voice actor. Yes.
No, it always sounds wonderful, and I love all the little sound effects and things in all of your episodes. It's so well detailed and thorough. Would you like to tell us a little bit about what goes into creating an episode for your show?
It kind of started with an overarching idea. I didn't just pop in, make one episode and go like, oh, that's a great idea. Like I really had a thought of the arc of how I wanted the whole thing to go. It was based on storybooks that I wrote and illustrated a while ago. And in the storybooks, it's kind of just written prose, and the story just kind of furthers the illustrations. They're really just picture books. And they didn't even have names back then. And it was just them kind of floating through the Arctic or through the swamp, and just kind of the concept being, where will they bloom next? And this has some of the same elements, but in a lot of ways, this is the origin story. So when I wrote it as an overarching arc, like a concept of beginning to end, where I wanted them to begin, and then how they would bloom. And then so the mechanics of just kind of making the episode starts with just doing that. And then I actually wrote the scripts first. And they evolved by episode. I didn't stick with my first draft necessarily, but I did write most of the episodes before I even started doing any of the animation, really. Then I would do like storyboards. And when I say storyboards, they are 2 pages of sketches in my sketchbook that are like thumbnail size. They would not be translatable for anybody else. I'm not sure that I could make it as an actual storyboard artist in Hollywood by any means, because they're just so quick. They're basically just notes for me later. And then I tighten them up, like you said, with the sound, and do the voice acting through. And then I match the voice acting with the sketches, with the storyboards, to make an animatic, to kind of like paste it out, to make that really tight, so that when I go to do the animation, a lot of the hard work is over. So the vocal part's already there, and then I'm just kind of animating to it piece by piece. So the large time consuming kind of like busy work of it is actually the animation part. Like a lot of the concepts already done at that point. It's just doing the actual physical drawing of it, which is again time consuming, kind of taxing. But I can also, while I draw it, by that point a lot of the thinking is over, so I can kind of listen to podcasts or listen to music or just kind of get into a zone with it. And then after that, I edit it all together, and then I show it to you guys.
You make it sound so simple, but
no,
it's actually
so
like
time consuming. It's 13 episodes, but I'm going on, close to 2 years on this thing. And a lot of it was not doing the animation. The drawing the animation to me is not the simple part, but like I said, it's the busy work. It's the concept, and it's the getting the script down and trying to figure out how to tie those loose ends and really trying to make it cohesive. And the episodes are very short, relatively speaking. They're, 2.5, 3 minutes long, each one. But it's just me. So I keep it like very manageable, but a lot happens in those episodes too. So I really do try to make it as cohesive as possible. And the only way that I'm able to do that is by making sure, again, that overarching concept is still there, and then kind of picking away at the details as I go. So it sounds simple, and that is simply kind of sort of how I do it. But it's been a lot of work. It's been a fun ride. I'm working on the finale of Full Bloom right now. So I'm kind of looking forward to being done with this part of it, and then moving on to kind of the next season and seeing where it goes from there.
Oh, that's so much fun. Yes, I think this season has been just a lot of fun. There's just so many details, and the plot itself is somewhat complicated. You kind of have to watch them all and kind of like, okay, like you it's very digestible as far as just length of time, which is perfect for YouTube. YouTube likes that 2 to 3 minute zone. And I think that also appeals to a very large audience, but it's easy to binge watch. Like you could just keep clicking the next one and, get that. And it's also really nice that you have like a recap. Like you kind of like tease the next one at the end of each episode, which I think is just really, again, just really well thought out. And I like your theme song.
Oh, thank you so much.
I
love the theme song too. Thank you. With or without words, I wrote the theme song, and I kind of sung the theme song to the person who eventually composed it. But what he came back with was, I was like, oh, that's perfect. Like, it didn't go through very many revisions. Like he got it instantly, and he's been doing. Wow. He did the Thorn song that comes later and a lot of the other music for it. So he really did excellent work. Shoe Creative did really excellent work on it. But I was like, hey, I have this idea for a theme song, and I sang it. I sang it into my phone and just kind of sent it to him. And that's basically what he came back with. I was like, perfect. Thank you.
That is amazing that you just came up, and it fits so well. Like it's just, you kind of just groove to it when you're watching it.
Oh, good.
And it doesn't, like, I'm 40 years old, obviously not a 10-year-old child watching this, and I'm still like kind of grooving along with it. So it actually kind of takes me back to some of the cartoons that I used to watch growing up. Judge me any way you want. Rainbow Bright, Care Bears, even like Voltron, like the original '84 Voltron, where the princess was like super dramatic. It just kind of really like makes me feel like I'm watching something that has that kind of like relevance and ability to grow. So I just think it's really cool, everything that you're doing, and even merch to go along with it. You've got books, you've got pins. If we join your Patreon, I think we can even get signed copies of things, which is very cool.
Yeah, sure
and really just this whole world with a goal, if hopefully I don't quote this incorrectly, but having a doll available for mass distribution at Target, so that we could bring Bellossoms to the entire world, have that on a shelf. I would buy one or two, just like all of them, probably just have them. And yeah, it can be somewhat overwhelming though, with all of these like little things and just so much time that it has. Do you ever get that kind of overwhelming feeling when you're just working on everything, or is it more just you kind of fall into the flow and things just start happening?
No, it's not. It's definitely never, particularly with merch and trying to get there. It's never, just go with the flow. Like it, to me that's also just like I was talking about, the story building, I think, and the story building to me is also the really interesting part. I love storyboards. I like the energy that comes out of just like kind of piecing it together as it goes. It's very loose and kind of fluid for me, so that part's fun. Merchandise, it's better now that I have. It's just like there was a lot of art I had to do. There were a lot of style guides I had to prepare. So a lot of the art that I have now, I had to make vector art, which is on its own time consuming. So I could draw it, but then it had to be turned into vector art. And that could take a week or two just to do that from a production standpoint. And piecing it together, trying to come up with the concepts of what might people like, what do I want to make, what do I have available, because it's a one-person show. So I'm getting better at it. I think a lot too, because I do get opportunities to take sort of mental breaks from the show. Here in the last several months, I wasn't doing this for a while, but this year I've been doing an episode a month. So that's been very time consuming, and that takes up most of my time. So the merch stuff is always like, oh no, and I also have to do this. So it always feels like a panic. Like it never feels like I'm prepared to do more merch. So hopefully it doesn't look rushed, but for me, it's anxiety. It's anxiety causing. I like having it. I like that people want it. I want to give it to them. I just struggle with. I feel like I'm always behind on that end of it, and I'm working to kind of get more and get better at it. But there's no flow to it.
Oh, well, it all comes out just magically. Very, it looks like it's very well thought out and well received as well. I mean, you go to conventions and just so much positivity and very, very energetic at your booth, and just everything that you have. Your booth looks really cool all the time. You have so many little details, and it's got such a great feeling to it. And I guess one question for you, because you do the conventions on top of doing all of the production, editing, and creating the merch, now you're traveling and you have to set up your booth. What do you like about being in spaces like Artist Alley and being able to connect with people at cons?
It's like Christmas to me. When C2E2 has the red carpet out and you like walk out there, and I get there at the crack of dawn. Like security knows my name. they're like, oh, you're back. I'm like, yeah. And I get there at the crack of dawn and just make sure like I'm really well prepared and that my booth is how I want it to be. And then I kind of like reset it or like change things if maybe something wasn't selling or wasn't working. And so I am there very, very early, and I stay until the close of the show, and I rarely leave my booth because I'm usually there alone. But it's just very, I don't know, it goes really fast. Sunday's always kind of like sad for me. Like I'm exhausted, but I'm also like, oh, that was like, oh, I have to wait another year for one, particularly when like they only come around once a year, so like C2E2, so I just end up doing more. But I love talking with people. I love how excited they are. I do get really sweet compliments sometimes about people saying, you're my favorite artist, or, we come to see you, or, we're always going to stop at your booth. Like, I think the people coming back, I think is so sweet and means so much. Like, it's not just like a one-off thing. Like, I really see a lot of the same people coming back, even within the same show, even sometimes the same day, they kind of wrap back around and are like, oh, we're back. And it's just very nice. It's everyone is very nice and very supportive. And I'm just happy to be out and see, because really, it's just me animating the show, on my computer and then putting it on YouTube, and I'm completely disconnected from it. So it's only when I go to a show that I'm actually talking to people about it and kind of explaining to it. And they're like, oh, that sounds cool. And then they come back and they're like, wow, that was great. Or yeah, I watched your show. And getting to see the reactions, in real time, that's the only way to get it. And so I just really, I like interacting with the people.
Well, we're glad that you do. It's always great to see you at C2E2. And I'm just so glad that we were able to connect at the last convention, and I got to learn all about Bellossoms and just all the things that you do, because it's just so impressive. And really, I just you did draw a lot of your inspiration. I kind of saved this one for cartoons that I've seen, of course, and just kind of grown attached to over time. Sailor Moon being a big inspiration to your work.
Yeah.
Would you like to tell us a little bit about the Sailor Moon connection and some of the elements that you've kind of brought through and brought into your own work and ideas with Bellossoms?
Yeah, honestly, this whole interview could be about Sailor Moon, and I wouldn't even have to talk about Bellossoms. It would be completely fine with me. I get emotional sometimes talking about Sailor Moon because I think it holds such a special place in my heart for a number of reasons. But I mean, drawing inspiration from it, I think my style, because when Sailor Moon came out, I mean, I have sketchbooks full of just Sailor Moon from when I was younger. And so a lot of, I think when I was developing, really learning how to draw and developing how to draw. So I think my style is kind of like a side effect of Sailor Moon in some ways. And so there's a lot of style influence there. I don't mean to do it. I think it's just there. Like it's not intentional. But it's just over time, that's kind of how it developed. So visually, I think the style, but for Sailor Moon, I think it's so iconic. Both the manga and the anime have different styles, and they're both stunning. I think it has so much personality. It's funny, it's sad, it's sweet, it's empowering. There's the friendship element again. And again, I don't think I can emphasize enough the importance of the representation and the female cast of it all. Like I was blown away when I was little. My playground play choices were April O'Neil or her friend Irma, who I usually had to be Irma, which is fine. Irma's great.
Everyone forgets about Irma, I think.
Irma
and
is
she was such a big she was a big part of the show.
They have a new toy of her. I just saw it in the store. Anyway, I'm not going to segue, but I was like, oh my God, it's Irma and Vernon and her boss.
Oh yeah, Vernon.
What's the toy company? I'll think of it real quick. It was, it's like she's like a monster cat. I can't think of the episode, but it was like, she's a monster cat. April's a monster cat in this set. So it's April as a monster, like a mutated cat. And then Irma, Vernon, and like the Channel 6 news crew. And I was like, this is the coolest toy. Not right now, but it's the coolest toy. Yeah. So I would get April O'Neil. I would get, I was a huge fan of Power. So like the Pink Ranger, I'm like, oh yes, thank you. But when Sailor Moon came out, the genre that I liked so much, which was that action, anime, like high octane style, was all girls. Like, I mean, I saw Sailor Moon, the way I discovered it was actually the doll commercial. It was on TV when I was watching something else, and it was 30 seconds, and they were showing clips of the show and the dolls, and I was like, oh my God, what is that? And I was a fan like instantly. Like I went and like played it. Like I didn't know anything about it. I was just like, Sailor Moon, this is the best, whatever. And it wasn't actually on. I had to go to school when it was on. So I happened to have a day off school one day, and I finally saw it, and it was like seminal. Like it was, I mean, I get emotional about it. I can't, if I was in a coma and they tell you to like play songs that are familiar to the person, like I'm like, play the Sailor Moon theme song. Like I will wake up. It will be very familiar to me. So I can't believe also, speaking of Sailor Moon, just how it's more popular now, weirdly, than it was then. Like it was such a scrape to try to get merch of Sailor Moon in like the 90s, whereas now they got t-shirts at Target. I mean, I never would have imagined in my wildest dreams that I'd still be talking about Sailor Moon, but I'm so glad that it's still there and it's still something that I can enjoy, and they're still kind of revisiting it. And, hopefully Blossoms goes the same route.
Well, and I think like in 1998, I felt like I was a little late to the dance because my friends all knew about anime, and they would like rush home because we lived pretty close. We were like 2 blocks from the school, and they would rush home and they'd turn on Sailor Moon. And for me, it was like the Dragon Ball Z pre-show because I was a big fan of Dragon Ball Z, but like I really got to appreciate Sailor Moon if I did have like any time, because it was usually like about 5 or 10 minutes in by the time I get back and actually be able to sit down. Because yeah, you're right. It was like earlier, even when it was on Cartoon Network, it was a little earlier in the afternoon, so it was hard to catch. But the animation and the style and just all of like they wove such a great anime. I mean, it was just such a great storyline, good storytelling, which I do see. I mean, definitely the storytelling in Bellossoms is also just fantastic. So well thought out. Like you spend so much time with the detail of how these characters interact and what their thought processes is. I mean, the antagonists all have their approach to things, and there's, you know, like, not, I don't think that they're all like completely evil either. I think they just like they're trying to control something that's probably not within, like they kind of lose control a little bit at a certain point. And I can see there being like more crossroads and things. It's yeah, so it's just definitely I can definitely see a few parallels, but you've just taken all of these things and just ran with them. So amazing. So
Oh,
amazing,
thank
all these
you.
things that you've
Yes,
done.
I really tried. And again, you know, Sailor Moon to me is the template for success, but a lot of Sailor Moon, you know, a lot of those shows are. So anything like, you know, Gargoyles,
Oh,
any of
yes.
the Disney movies, you know, Teen Titans Go, those ones that are so, I mean, and to some degree, even like the voice acting. So when I think of Batman, you know, I hear Kevin Conroy. Like I think when, you know, the Sonic movie is really popular and I can still
Mhm.
hear, you know, the Green Hill Zone music and hear like the chime of the rings. And that stuff is just very much embedded in me. And so I just think, that's it almost transcends the media. Like it becomes a part of you absorb it. And so I
Mhm.
just, part of me wanted to create something that was in the same way, like iconic, that people could, you know, absorb in the same way or remember in the same way, that it would still have whatever impact it has. Just giving it the opportunity to, you know, not be a one-off, like really just kind of stay with you. And I'm hoping it'll kind of continue to do that, or start to do that at least.
I would love to take some time just to go deep into the characters and just some of the like plot lines and things for the show. But first, I wanted to talk about Stephen Amell. um,
Let's.
let's the only guy I know who can like shimmy up a bar thing. I don't know how he does it. I used to watch a lot of Arrow, and
Oh,
Stephen Amell's great. He's a super nice guy. You've drawn for him. And I think there was a Facebook Live a little while back. Um, and you know, you were at several shows where he was a guest. And you know, he's a really kind, down to earth guy at the cons, if you meet him. And I guess, you know, just even like doing things for his show and stuff like that. Like even when you like online and stuff, like he's not like one of those snarky, leave me alone type of celebrities at all. But would you like to talk about Stephen Amell and what you ended up creating for him?
I'm always willing to talk about Stephen Amell. In the same way, Sailor Moon like kind of came into my universe. I was so, when Arrow came out, I mean, like no one was watching it. In like season one, it was like me and like 50 other people were like, oh, cool. But when you watch the pilot, it was like nothing else on TV. I mean, he was crushing it. Like you said, he's doing the salmon lantern. Like he was physically like there for the role, taking it super seriously. I just like kind of loved the plot and just the different like spin on it. And I thought he was just incredible in season one. So
And you know, I've kind of been thinking, like I've been thinking about this, like all of the action scenes. There's so much action in all of the seasons of Arrow. Like it's just nonstop, and they're just always like grappling, and he's like doing all these like jujitsu moves and stuff, takedowns and things. And like when you compare that with like Hugh Jackman, and then you're like, you know, I don't know if I've ever seen as an action hero Hugh Jackman do quite as much. Like he doesn't get as like into all the, like he does the stunts, but he doesn't do like these crazy action scenes with all these like moving pieces and people just like flying around, and he's like throwing people and spinning around and stuff. Like he just kind of like, you know, gets in there and like punches and does a few things. But then you look at the Arrow and it's just like, what?
yeah,
This is
yeah,
constant.
yeah. They really earned their spot over there. I mean, like they built the Arrowverse opposite, but this was pre-Arrowverse, okay? So we have to go back to this is, I mean, honestly, like would Daredevil have happened if Arrow didn't happen?
That's a
Because
good
that Daredevil
question.
always scene looks suspiciously familiar to the Arrow scene. Both excellent scenes. I'm not spoiling anything for everyone. Go watch both shows. They're both excellent. Not with your children. Maybe Arrow, but not Daredevil. So anyway, but so Stephen Amell. So I have a girlfriend who lives in Texas, Dallas, Texas, and I found out he was going to be at a con there. This is when Arrow season one is out, and I was like, oh my god. I got in my head. And he had just had a daughter, like a
Mhm.
baby, and she was a baby at the time. Now I think she's like 8 or something. I was like, I'm gonna go meet Stephen Amell. I don't know what, and I drew him. I have a version of book 2 of my book Rain or Shine, where it's a sketch cover while I'll do like custom covers for him. And I was like, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to thank him for all of his work on Arrow. Cause I mean, honestly, I'm still to this day so impressed. I haven't watched Arrow in a while. But when it came out, it was must see TV for me. I was like, this is the best thing I've seen on TV, especially that pilot. I've seen the pilot like 6 times. So I go to the show. I find like an emerald green dress, and I get like all made up, and I'm making this thing, and I bring in this stuff, and I go to the show, and I get up there, and I had a VIP pass, so I was like 7th in the queue or something, and I get up there, and I was like, hi, and he's like, I like your dress, and I start crying, and not like, oh, that's really nice, openly sobbing. Like, so I'm like, I'm just like a really big fan of your show, and you do like really good work. And he like took my hand and was like, that's, what do you do? Like, cause I'm from like Chicago area, and this was in Dallas. So he's like, what do you do in Chicago? And I was like, oh, I made this like present for you, whatever. So anyway, he was super, super kind in the moment. So I leave the show floor. I'm like elated. I'm just like walking through, like, I just met Stephen Amell. And people are like, because half the people, again, at the show, like, didn't really know who he was. Like, he was there, and he's always a big draw because he's so great with fans, and he's so sweet with his time. But this was, again, before all of that. So I'm just like going through the show floor looking like a mad woman. It's fine. I own it. And I go sit down and like catching my breath, whatever. Well, then a security guard comes by, I don't know, like 30 minutes later. And he's like, hey, they opened up your books upstairs. He really liked them. And I was like, it's like started crying all over again, and like on the internet, like, hey, everybody, I just met Stephen Amell. So that was the first time. And then I was just good with it. So the second time, I'm like, all right, I'm on a roll here. And he was so sweet to me. When I wrote my 3rd book, I actually put him in the thank you credits at the end, to him and his daughter, just because he was just nice, and like he liked them, and I thought it was super cool, and he was giving me inspiration at a time where I kind of like needed it. So I was like, oh, yeah. So then I went to go see him in Kansas City. Had not been to Kansas City before. Went totally by myself for a week, and I was like, I'm gonna go see him. I gotta give him this book that I just like signed over. Like I have to show him that I like thanked him in this book or whatever. So he has the whole series right in my head. So I go, and he actually had to cancel on the Saturday of the show. So I wasn't there on the Saturday, but then on the Sunday comes, and he kind of remembered me. But at this point, I might be scaring him a little, because I was like, I said I wouldn't cry, but I start crying again, like a fool. Because I'm just so excited. Like I was overwhelmed with excitement. And again, but he was, the queue in the line, because he had missed Saturday, was so long that it's like, he didn't have time, and I totally get it. So that was the second time. The third time, he was in Chicago, and this was when he had first started his wine company, and he was doing wine tasting, like tickets. And so I was like, I'm gonna get tickets to the show. Let's go see Stephen Amell over here at Rosemount, whatever. So I go, again, went alone, hooked up with a random like group of girls that are all like, Stephen Amell. I'm like, yeah, me too. Let's do this. So we're there. Dude is pouring wine, like, for the girls that I'm with, and like him and his partner are just, hanging out, and it's a whole thing. And mind you, I've had some wine, because again, it was a wine tasting party. And so he was like taking questions from the crowd. And I'm like in the front, like this again, like a 6-year-old, like, hey, I have the answer, whatever. So I blacked out a little bit. Either he handed me the microphone, or somebody else handed me the microphone, whatever. And I was like, hey, I just wanted to know if you read the books that I gave to your daughter about the little flowers that go on adventures, blah, blah, blah. So he goes into this whole thing about how he's super grateful. I'm sure he gets stuff all the time, especially at this point now. He's totally famous at this point now, right? Like Arrow is a hit, and they started Flash. He's doing awesome. Yes, and I wish him the best at all times.
Yeah, he's
doing just fine. Yeah, he owns a part of the CW. And he goes into this, I don't know, tangent about how he loves getting books, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then at the end he's like, I'm filming in Vancouver, but those books are in LA. And I was like, all right. So that's why I'm such a Stephen Amell fan. My experience has been the same, that he's very sweet, very kind, and he's incredible in the show, particularly the first several seasons where he talked about how it was unsustainable, how hard he was working, and like the diet he had to do, and like how the fitness he had to do, and like leading up to the pilot. But then when you watch the pilot, you can tell it's unsustainable, but you can also tell how much work it took. And so I just really respect and appreciated him taking a property that, you know, DC had left on the cutting floor seriously. I mean, other than an animation like in Justice League Unlimited or something, or in the Greg Weisman Green Arrow animated short or whatever, that's kind of it. And I'm a Green Arrow fan and I'm a Black Canary fan. And so having somebody take that medium seriously was really important to me. So I really appreciate him for that, and for being super nice and being a Bellossoms fan and talking about.
He's one of your fans, so that's really cool.
I hope he is. I hope I didn't scare him away. I'm a little excitable. So ask him if he remembers when they're in Chicago. I'm like, you're gonna go see Steve. No, but anytime they are, and like, he's super nice, you're gonna have a great time. I tell everybody that when they're gonna go meet him. I'm like, oh, you're gonna love it. He's great. So.
Yeah, well, and someday you will be in the same aisle in Target. So you'll have all of the Arrow toys on one side, and then you'll have all of the Bellossoms toys on the other side.
Naturally, yeah.
Actually,
same exact market, yeah.
Yeah. Yes, just you know, the show, again, thank you so much for being on and for sharing so much of your work and what you do, and for really spending as much time as you do with your fans online, just going through your animations, even thinking about, you know, maybe doing a Twitch stream down the road or something like that. All of the merch, all the options that you have, t-shirts, tights, books, hats, pins, definitely getting some pins. Because we collect them. So anytime we see any like really unique, fun pins, we want those. I just keep putting them on my backpack. I do a little bit of photography here and there, so if I bring that with me, I like to like put all the pins all over the bag.
Nice, good choice.
Yep, just a collector that way. But you have so many cool things to collect. There's so many things for people to enjoy, and I guess if you were to, talk about just like the characters, like what things that you would want us to know about the characters that you've created. I guess that's where I would like to kind of go, as far as just like really getting deep into Bellossoms and just talking about how all these things tie together, but like the thought process of building a character, and then like how you go about maybe taking them in different directions, or like what you want to see the Bellossoms universe become, you know, just like maybe for next season, or just in general, like where do you want it to go?
Yeah, where will the Bellossoms bloom next? Good question. Okay, so the first question is kind of just creating characters and about them and kind of how that evolves. Like I said, when I wrote the storybooks, they didn't have names. They were, it was just sort of, and they're lovely. Like they're good bedtime stories. But they didn't have names. And it's just sort of about, I think initially my idea with them, my point is going to be things evolve. So initially my idea with them is like, I'm not going to give them names. I'm not going to give them, I'm going to let whoever gets the books name them. Like they can, it was almost like I was turning over my ownership of them to whoever would read the books. And like, I assume like a child would be like, well, what's their name? And it's like, well, you can name them. So, you know, kids can come up with amazing stuff on their own. So that was kind of the thing. But when I'm watching stuff like Sailor Moon or She-Ra or, you know, Monster High, or anything that has character driven stories where they have dolls, they have that kind of stuff. And even for me as a fan, you want that stuff though. You want to know their name, you want to know their birthday, you want to know like all their stats, their favorite food, what makes them them, and then you can pick a favorite one. Like it makes it easier. That's part of the fandom, right? Mm-hmm. So as I was exploring beginning to do animation, because I've not been an animator, still in quotes, I'm still learning. I have not been an animator very long. I spent the majority of my time just being just a paper and pen style illustrator, and then eventually I segued into animation. But once I started exploring doing animation, I was like, and writing the theme song and stuff, I was like, well, they should have names, like they should have stuff. And so really their personalities kind of came out of what happened when I started to develop them further and ask my own questions about them and where I wanted them to go. And it was sort of just a necessity for them to start to take on personalities. So that once I named them, it made it a lot easier to start breaking them off into having their own stuff. Because at first, like I said in the books, they're kind of just a group. They're all just the Bellossoms, and they all just bloom together and they go and travel. And then the Thorns of the Thorns, and they don't really have names. But then once I gave them names, the personalities kind of came on their own a little bit. I was like, oh, well, this is these two fight all the time, or this is the hungry one, or this is, or they argue, or she's really sweet, or she's kind of shy. Like just, it kind of came about as I was experimenting with the voices and just when I would draw them and kind of what would happen when I draw them. So I would say just as an overarching thing, developing a character is a process. And I didn't even know where they would go. When I didn't know I would have multiple books. I didn't know I would have an animated show. Like I'm so happy with having some little, like a project of my own, even at this point, but just having something that did evolve, and I am able to kind of look back and see kind of where it was, how it started, and how it's going. So in that way, I'm proud of their personalities. And I would say, I mean, with any artist, I think the personalities sort of come out of me. So somebody asked me when I streamed the first couple episodes, which one's your favorite? And I was like, well, I don't really have a favorite, if I'm being honest. I think they're all just kind of fractured parts of my own personality to some degree. Because, it's sort of unavoidable since I wrote them and I animated it and I drew them myself. If I created it, then it's all sort of a part of me. So I don't have a favorite in that way, but I would say their personalities, the takeaway for them is they are very independent. They make their own stuff. They make their own clothes. They make their own, like, they kind of forage their own food. Like, they live in a tree and they're kind of isolated at first, and then they get out, and wherever they go, they kind of just, they just kind of figure it out as they go. They still fight, but they get along in the end. And they're, they stick it out. They're really good friends. So I hope to some degree that people watching it can kind of get in on that sense of friendship and that sense of camaraderie and sort of like almost like a Ninja Turtles kind of thing where they're like a little bit like siblings. That's kind of the dynamic I was going for there. So as far as like the character kind of creation goes, that's kind of what I say about that. That's where it came from. I would say it evolved, and it's parts of my personality, parts of stuff that I like, parts of stuff that I thought was successful, kind of all mashed together and creating kind of where they are now. So where I want them to go, the next season actually it'll be called Bellossoms Sprouts, Tales Beyond the Tree. And they will be, so like I said, full bloom as it is now is an origin story. And the way it ends, I'm not gonna spoil it, but the way it ends leaves it open for other stories. So a lot of them will be like vignettes that are character specific. So I'm going to reach into these little more comedic, more like one-offs, just kind of slice of life stories that hopefully highlight and let you get to know kind of the characters a little bit like better. So that is my goal with it going forward. And beyond that, I want my dolls at Target. I want to be able to, I would love to go to a comic book convention, not only in Artist Alley, but to have a booth out in the exhibit hall where you could go meet the characters, where it's a kind of a Disneyland experience where little girls could come up and take pictures and play with them, and they're all in costume and it looks like a tree and they're all sitting around the tree. And then it's also like you could get merch and interact with them. And that's kind of really going beyond even like the page and the animation, kind of taking it to that next level. But
it's very cosplayable. Very cosplayable characters.
So.
I can see that happening for sure. Yes, I can't wait. Some of them I thought when I designed them, I was like, ooh, cosplayers will love it. If it ever gets to this point, some of the villains specifically. But yeah, I would love to see some cosplayers. So yeah, definitely. I'm very excited to see what will happen in Sprouts and what goes on at the end of the first season. I really enjoy the channel. Of course, that's why we're here to talk about it on the show. But really, everyone, go check out the channel and support Bellossoms. Subscribe to. We'll have all the links in the show notes and everything, so you can go and check this out. But it's so unique and fun, and really, I think just the possibilities for things that'll be coming in the future are just really unlimited. I think it's as good as anything that I've seen, just on television or anywhere else on YouTube for that matter. And I'm really looking forward to how everything goes from here, and just all the things that you've done, and all of the really just the heart and soul and all the hard work that you've put in to everything that you've been creating up to this point, Erika. It's just amazing. So thank you so much.
That is so kind. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. That's very sweet. I'm working very hard, but I also, I enjoy it so much. And so it's nice to hear that other people are enjoying it too. So that makes me very happy. Thank you.
And for those of us viewing, where can we find you and how can we support you online?
Oh, honestly, just watching the show is support enough. You cannot comment on it because technically it's YouTube for kids. So you can't say like, this is great. You can add likes. You can hit the like button. Subscribe, please. That is the easiest way to support the show. The more subscribe numbers I have, the likelier it is to start getting into conversations about having a doll at Target. So those are all free ways to do it. Social media, you can follow me on Facebook, can follow me on the Twitter. I'm not on the Twitch yet. I would like to be on the Twitch maybe next year, once I figure that out, or maybe just stream live on YouTube more. But I don't know how to do that yet. And also I spend so much time animating the show that it's hard to imagine a block of time where I can sit there and stream, but I'm going to figure it out. I do have a Patreon. It's under Very Bright Erika. So you can go Erika with a K. So you can check that out. And then just go to my website has all of my links, bellossoms.com or adventureisinbloom.com. And you can watch the episodes. You can check out, you can watch me draw sketch cards on TikTok. You can go to shopbellossoms.com and pick up some cool merch. I got this new shirt. I got this Thorns jacket. Actually, the Thorns aren't there anymore. This was a Halloween thing. So come back for Halloween if you're looking for Thorn stuff. But right now, it's all Bellossoms and it's summer fun. And then, yeah. And I actually did open up a bit of a physical store here recently. My friend has a store in the local mall, and you can get the specifics on that on Facebook as well. So if you're local to the Chicagoland area, you can check it out and interact with Bellossoms in person.
Oh, fantastic.
Oh, please.
Oh, that's so wonderful. So yes, thank you so much. And friends, yeah, like I said, all of the links are in the show notes below. You can click and you can go to the wonderful Bellossoms website and just check out all the merch and different things that you can interact with on the website. It's really it's a great looking website. Really, again, just all the details and things that Erika puts into everything that she creates. It's just fantastic. And yes, I think that's where we're going to end it today, folks. Again, thank you so much for being on the show. This is ScottyB with Heroes of Cosplay Sanctuary and Erika and Bellossoms saying bye-bye.
Thank you.